call the Building and Facilities meeting of December 21st will now come to order at 4, what is it up here?
15. 4:15.
Is it? Yeah. 4:15. Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought you said 50. 4:15. And would you please go around the table, state your name for the recorder?
Linda Brown.
Ray Klotz.
Bob Wormy.
Shirley Mazinski, and Fred Fontaine did call me, and he is excused. Okay, the first item on our agenda is the needs assessment and feasibility considerations supporting options for public safety and/or highway department building projects. So Matt, you were going to be working on an
RFQ,
yeah.
which was
RFQ.
approved by the Select Board last night, and the advertising period will begin the 28th of December. Lisa's making copies for all of you.
Okay.
The approach I've followed here is I'm using a model that's been used by a number of housing agencies around the Commonwealth in particular. Now, municipalities have done it too, but it's very common with, the bigger cities and the way they have lots of housing. That is that you hire a house doctor, and that becomes your architect or engineer of record that you build a relationship with within the confines of an acceptable contract, 3 years. But instead of going out to RFQ every single time you do anything, you have them there. Now, you protect the town by saying, at this milestone, we're going to evaluate your performance. If it's not good enough, we're out of the contract. But you have to have some rational basis for wanting to do that. And so at the beginning of the RFQ, I go through 4 reasons why I think it's really important that we try to stick with one firm. In my view, we need somebody who will get to know us, and we'll see the dynamic interplay between these 3 departments that we're trying to figure out how best to house them, the way they store their equipment, the way they share staff, and the way they share the other assets of the town. I feel like with a project basis, you're getting that one-off. You might get somebody who's a real go-getter and wants to really nail it with that one project, but they do what's right for that department without reference back to the financial constraints of the town or the needs of the other departments. I want somebody to really fundamentally answer to this committee and the select board and me, and not think that they're working a project for a specific department head. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. Another is competition. All this ARPA money that has been flowed out to the municipalities, we all have money to spend on projects. So we're all calling the architects and engineers, of which there is a limited supply, and trying to get on their radar screen. So a Douglas project would have to be big enough to get the attention from a firm that's big enough to do what we need them to do. But if we offer them this possibility of relationship now, as a manager of a professional services firm, I like that, because that means that person I wasn't sure I could hire because I didn't know if I could pay them for the next couple of years. I got an engagement that's going to last long enough for me to make that decision and then staff the project if it's a small firm. I'm thinking that we're probably going to get more interest from the NV5 and some of the other big firms that have previously responded to our RFQs, because they have a really big shop. They have lots of people on staff and might be able to hit the timelines that we're trying to hit. We're really feeling adamant that the highway barn conceptual design needs to be at special town meeting in November of 2023. So we've got to get from, basically accelerate from 0 to, not 100, but 0 to 55, so that we can have at least a picture to show people, an estimate of the cost, and that cost estimate will also be part of the debt, potential debt instrument that has to be drawn up by bond counsel. That is, feeling fairly aggressive, because just the process of picking this firm will probably take you to the end of March. So if we advertise for a month, then give the BFCC opportunity to do a couple of meetings, and then the select board to make the selection on the finalists, it'll probably be March by the time they start. So they'll have April, May, June, July, August, September, 6 months to take all the work that everybody's already done, digest that, and then start to really dig down on what lot would be best, how to bring utilities in, how to configure it. So that's where we are with it.
So
Are there any
I-
questions?
Yes, so there will be nothing for the regular annual town meeting about this.
So May, I think, would be a mission impossible. 'cause I
Okay,
think
because
that
a
would
while
be-
ago, we were talking about it.
Yeah, we were.
Okay, sounds good. I'd rather take our time.
That's where I ended up. Once I started to do the timeline, I was like, there's no way we're going to
Yeah.
do May. There's just no way.
Anyone else?
And get a good result. Well, we'll distribute this in a second. Lisa's making
Sure.
copies for you. You will notice that it really is very similar to the last two that we've done. The scoring system is very similar. It's highly advantageous, not advantageous, or unacceptable. Across 4 different categories, they'll each count for 25% of the score. The price will be negotiated. The select board did encumber ARPA funds to pay for, or at least an estimate of the services. So we checked that box. We are doing some research, of course, to determine whether our estimate of the designer cost is realistic or not. I think one of the things that, yeah, there still will be competition, right? So if we're going to big firm, we might still have to bid up the price to get them to negotiate with us and come do the work for us. I don't really want to be tied to some customary arrangement where people say, well, we're just going to get paid 10% of the project. I'm trying pretty hard to avoid that. There's a lot of price inflation right now for different supply chain interruptions. I don't know why the designer should profit from that. Let's get to a pretty good understanding of what the base cost of the building should be, estimate the fee, assign that fee to milestones, and see where that takes us. But I don't want to end up paying 8% more to the designer because the cost of roofing materials goes up 8% or more than 8%. So, that's not a perfect example, but you know what I'm trying to say. I don't want the cost of materials to necessarily dictate what their value of their time is, so.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Oh, they're still warm, too. It's kind of chilly in here, so I'll pass them out. They get a little bit thick because
Huh.
we put our sample contract in here.
Oh, thanks.
I need one more.
Wow. Little late night reading.
But like I say, I think when you start to see it, other than the advertising piece up front and the scope of work, the rest is going to be something you've seen several times. I don't know.
Okay. Matt, how about the forms where we grade them?
Well, yeah.
Every time we've okay, where's the forms that we grade? So we need to have those too.
Yep.
Okay.
But we'll probably get those when we get bids, right?
Yeah, the grading system and what each grade means is explained in has to be explained in the document.
Yeah.
But the scoring grids we'll get to you in advance. I think we'll walk through it.
Okay. All right. That would be good. So getting to the 28th, just, everybody's on the same page. So we really need to get into this, give our input to you before they go out, because that's when it's going out to bid.
And, we're having a pre-bid conference on January 11th. So I would say that's your real deadline for comments, because I can always post an amendment up to January 11th.
Okay.
And they have to have their response in by January 25th. So any amendment I post would have 2 weeks to mature.
Okay. Everybody got that? And we'll also need a copy for Fred,
Which I will make a note.
because I don't see an extra.
We manage the budget very tightly around here.
Hey, Okay,
You'll notice that these are double-sided copies.
absolutely, they should
Thank
be.
you. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
It's not only the budget, hey, we need to save the trees.
Yeah, I know it.
So January 11th, we need to have input in. Is
Yeah.
that good with everybody?
So if we have any comments
Before then?
before then, send them to Matt, right, Matt?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And the other thing along with this, so our next meeting is January 18th. So my question is, should we have a meeting before the 18th?
If we could make that subject to the call of the chair, like if I get a lot of comments back from people and it feels like, wow, this is really something we should just hash out as a group, I
Okay,
would recommend to you that we have a meeting to go through those things.
good for everybody?
If it's mostly typos and a word here and there, I'll just fix it and post it as an amendment, if that's okay with everybody.
All right? Yep. Sounds good to me. Any other questions? Comments? Lots of reading. Thank you. Okay, and we're going to try to make this short. I know we're a little behind schedule here, but the next item, status of the oil spill. Where is that? Is it done?
I'm trying to get something else printed out for you, and rather than run out, I'm just texting Lisa, can you also print out McRitchie report on DFD HVAC. So the good news, well, it's all good news, we don't have any bad news on this time.
Good?
But the best news is that the new system for the day tank and the pump and the alarms is fully installed.
All right.
So,
At the
knock on
price
wood,
of-
crisis averted in terms of heating the municipal center. So, the 2 HVAC units have been installed on the roof,
Ooh, nice.
and now the heating system is fully functional and fully alarmed. We have a lot more sophisticated alarms than we had in the past. So, we are doing everything our insurance company would want us to do. So now, if you ever hear something that sounds like, you know those old movies, I don't know, the Ten Commandments and some of the other old Bible movies, you guys blowing on a ram's horn? Oh, right. We got one of those things in the hall here.
Ooh.
And so if it goes off, it's not a fire alarm, it means we have a problem with the heating system downstairs. But, so that was one of the issues, right? So nobody knew that the spill was occurring until there was so much on the ground that the police could smell it
Ooh.
in their station, so it had to penetrate around. So by that time, 300 gallons had fallen. So this should be better than that.
Police will be able to hear that set noise, that alarm.
I don't know that anybody could possibly miss it.
Oh,
You'd really have to be trying.
So my question is, everything is done? And,
So that's, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't signed the warrant yet, but yes, we've been invoiced for the work and it's tested and accepted.
okay.
and no more contaminated oil spill
So
studies?
21 Environmental is still wrapping up
Oh,
and I think we're due a response. I think that DEP has all of our material and we're waiting to hear back from them. But that all seemed to be very well buttoned up. The
Okay.
filing was thoroughly done. So we may finally, maybe one more meeting, have this on the agenda, and then after that, we should be able to close it up.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from anybody? Okay. B, green communities. Matt,
Matt Benoit, who's one of many sick employees right now, when not present.
okay. He's still working on that, or you,
So we've made progress, no, so the new expediter / facilitator, those are the limited number of people we can pick from that have already been competitively bid through National Grid, completed their assessment of our buildings and has made recommendations. lighting projects are winner, chicken dinner. They have great paybacks, they're not that expensive to do. So we have these lights in Town Hall, we have whatever in the world is installed upstairs. Then we have the old post office, which I always refer to as the Grand Army of the Republic Hall.
It was the town hall.
It was the Town Hall. Before that, it was the Grand Army of the Republic Hall. And,
The theater,
yeah, it was everything. I think that movie projector is actually still there.
probably.
Wow.
Yes, still, because it's mounted. Anyway, we can fix the lights in that building as well. So we've already done the senior center, adult social center.
Okay.
We haven't done the rest of the building, and that is our responsibility under our lease with the post office. So we will be we'll be applying for a competitive grant to do those two. And I think there's a school building. They also scored highway, but we're probably not going to put highway on the application
Yeah.
because it doesn't really make sense
Okay.
to invest anything in the building.
So we'll be hearing more on that.
Yep.
Okay. Municipal backup generator?
All has
Still
been
waiting?
quiet on the Western Front with this one. I'm due for a check-in, because we're getting to the end of the year, with McRitchie.
Yep.
I do know that the last time I spoke to them, we were in a really long queue for the
Spring
generator.
is what I have on my
Spring
last.
is where we are.
Okay. So we'll keep that. Bad Luck Pond Outlet Bridge.
We had our last meeting on this today.
Good.
I got to play bad cop for a couple of days. And communication is everything, right? So
Yes.
the subcontractor and the general contractor, to some extent, our architectural firm, engineering firm, they hadn't dotted all the i's and crossed the t's. And so I was not paying the general contractor because they had not paid their sub, even though we paid the general for the work that the sub did. So it looked a little squirrely. There were some outstanding issues regarding certified payroll and whether or not all the documentation had been supplied to the general contractor. So we sorted that out today. We sorted out a little bit of the upcharge for fuel and asphalt, which was not much at all. And GPI has now provided us with an acceptance, a physical acceptance of the project. So all project parameters were met. So we are going to have a big, happy post-Christmas exchange of live checks early next week, and it will all be closed up and done.
So the spring.
John promises there's one thing left, is that he has to change the elevation of one of the signs, like 2 inches
Okay.
to be in
And
perfect
what
compliance.
about the grasses that were,
Concom was all set with that.
Okay.
So we brought it to them, and they're all set.
okay. Anybody else
Interestingly enough, the natural process,
took care of?
this took so long to do, the natural process made a big difference
Okay.
and helped out with that.
So one more meeting for that?
I suppose, yes.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody? Municipal fire alarm, that's on hold,
It's on hold.
but we need to really seriously look at that and have a time frame here. The public safety radio system.
So I think I've got more good news. It's not up and running yet, but we're awful close.
Really?
It's always good to have evidence that people have been working. And in this case, they tore up Eben and Ellie's field to the point where we know they were there.
But
So they've installed all their microwave, and then they've configured the console, so that's all tested out. And it will be installed soon. I'm confident that they said within a couple of weeks we'll be finished with this. We'll be finished with the install. We will not be finished with the testing.
But what about the big tower on the Webster line?
That was done already.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I think I explained this last meeting, but I'll be brief in case I'm being redundant. the company that owns the tower in Webster, Industrial Communications, they're also the only qualified rigging company that could install our stuff. So our landlord was installing our equipment not only on their own tower, but on the tower at the Chesbro property. So the relationship with them gets a little bit more, you know, I guess respectful. You don't pound on the table when you've got your landlord. So they've done that. I think we also resolved some kludgy electrical issues at the monopole on the Chesbro property, because doesn't seem like we were ever truly connected to our town feed for power and for, so I think it's going to be on our bill from now on. It's $120 a month more than it was, but at least it makes me feel better that we're in control of it, not Verizon. So that's a good thing. But I've made the one progress payment, Madam Chair, to them because I had sufficient legal evidence and documentary evidence and photos of work that had been completed to date, as well as inventory. So all of our stuff is staged to be brought to us. So it's in our possession, physical, legal possession. It will soon be in our physical possession.
All right.
I will be glad to see this one finished.
Yes, taken way too long.
It is.
Municipal main roof replacement.
We have good progress here. So Adam has been working with one of the vendors that he has worked with in the past to provide us with an estimate. My philosophy has always been that we keep our nose clean by paying a couple $100 for somebody to provide us with a professional estimate. And that way, we're not promising them the inside track on the bidding process or anything else. You just tell us what's there, help us write a spec, and that's your work product. If you want to bid, you can go ahead and bid. But you don't have any, we don't owe you anything. We paid you for your time. Thank you very much. So that's what's happened. So the roof samples have been lifted, so they core out just to see
Okay.
all the different layers of roofing that have been installed and what they're going to have to do. We will do this in the spring. So this is a high priority to finish, because we're starting to we've had some really nasty rainstorms lately
Yeah.
with heavy winds,
Yeah.
but that's our enemy in this building, is wind-driven rain. So we've had a couple of spots on ceiling tiles on the second floor. Nothing we're losing sleep over, but it is starting to come up again.
And in the roof over the elevator, that's going to be included in this estimate, or?
So we're going to take two paths to that, because the multiple paths to the conclusion means we're probably going to at least get one successfully completed. One is we're either just going to do it as an ARPA project, if the board should approve that, or we'll add it as an add alternate to the main roof, and if the whole budget works out. I agree with Selectman Fitzpatrick. I mean, obviously, with the passage of time, different building materials, industries have had different supply chain interruptions. Right now, it looks like roofing materials are the one where supply costs are going up. So we're still hoping for spring or early summer work, so hopefully that will pass us by.
Okay.
But I'm glad that this is a good time to be out bidding, because everybody's paying attention. They're lining up their work for the next construction season, so.
Okay. And the only reason I ask is because even, I think you have said among others, that sometimes if you have more roofs to be done, it's better to do them or get them with the estimate so it may be cheaper. Okay. Questions, anyone? Heat pumps for fire station.
So this is the report I'm trying to get to you.
From McKitchen,
From McRitchie,
McRitchie, I'm sorry.
and let me just forward it to Lisa. So we got a report from, we had contracted using ARPA funds
Right.
with McRitchie to do an HVAC project scoping.
Yeah.
And the idea would be that we would include HVAC in the electrical design for the building, but the actual install would be done with ARPA funds. So town meeting's providing the electrical work, but we would do the HVAC work with ARPA. I was a little bit surprised, but happy to be surprised, that McRitchie's analysis, and you'll see it when I get you the report, it's only 4 pages long, is that heat pumps are not a viable solution for the fire station. They are not efficient in weather like this that we have today. They actually, you end up having to supplant or back up your heat pump
Supplement, yeah.
with some electric coils or another source of heat. And their review of the way the heating system is configured in the building now is that it's actually salvageable, which is a disappointment to Howard, because he wanted to pull those tanks out of there and use that for his new electrical panels. But he's going to have to plan around that. So we have a commercial grade furnace in the building, and the primary finding is that one of the really big issues in the building is that there are so many appliances that are drawing air out of the building that it's creating significant negative pressure differential. So every single little pore in the building envelope is, this cold air gets pulled in, or hot air in the summer is getting pulled in through every little leak in the window and every door and overhead door. So a lot of the effort is going to be to balance and to have fresh air brought in from the outside to keep the pressure equalized so that there isn't that much flow. You know, the other downside of having that much negative pressure in the building is that even though you're trying to suck all the contaminants and put them out, whatever is in the building isn't leaving, because there's no fresh air being brought in. There's no replacement air. So to the extent that the turnout gear or something else has contaminants on it, you can smell it as you walk around the building. Even after they've been washed, there's still an issue. So the air quality and air balancing effort in the building is going to have as much to do with maybe putting up some studs and hanging some wallboard and sequestering some of the spaces, and then managing the airflow in those spaces to get the bad air out, the good air in, and then we're probably going to still do air conditioning in a central fashion rather than window units.
So is Howard going to be making recommendations on?
So now that it was Bruce McRitchie that did the
Yeah.
HVAC. So now that he has forwarded his report to the other side of his own office, to Howard, so the equipment recommendations are going to be built into the electrical.
Okay.
So the heat pumps are out,
Heat pumps are out.
and we're replacing it with,
Probably brand-new high-efficiency central air
okay,
and various fans and other air handling devices. One of the other things that has to be done here is, you've heard this term used, I'm sure. It's a brand name, Plymavent system. It's a MagnaGrip system. We use MagnaGrip. It's a hose that attaches to the back of the exhaust
Oh,
of
yes.
the vehicles, and it takes all
Yeah.
the air out. There was no replacement air built into that.
Oh,
So when the Plymavent's running, it creates pretty significant negative pressure in the building.
everything gets sucked out, right?
Yep. So that will be corrected.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on that issue?
And I found out that I cannot get rid of my pet peeve. One of my pet peeves is the plywood that's in the window. So I think that looks so terrible. But apparently that's how there's a little unit there that does both heating and cooling
Yeah.
for the staff person who sits in that space. So I can't take the plywood out without taking her heater out. I wouldn't do that to her, so
Yeah.
we'll have to wait.
Okay. All right, next item is fire station upgrade, the generator
I
electrical.
think we just went through that. Yeah.
Okay,
That's not on the street yet, so I'm waiting to see now that McRitchie has finished his work, well, how fast Howard can turn this around.
okay.
But
And you'll be coming back to us with that information, or just to the selectmen?
yeah, so that's going to be a little bit different, right? So that's only design, so when they finish the construction plans, we'll have to go out to bid for. But that is, again, that's the dual funding, so our budget will be
Okay.
a combination of the two.
And ARPA funding and qualification discussion, that was mainly for information for the board?
So for your information, the select board did have a lengthy deliberation last night on ARPA funds. You know, with the passage of time, a couple of things happen. One is more and more departments identify projects that they can't fund with their own budgets, and so we're not going to be having a serious conversation about the capital budget again until the spring. So if it's a pressing need, but that's what's coming to the select board now, as everybody's coming forward with what they need to do right away. So last night, we had 2 conversations, one of which has been put on hold to the 3rd. They've both been put on hold until January 3rd, but they're probably going to be resolved on January 3rd. One has to do with building security at the schools, the other has to do with building security at the fire station. And then a third proposal was heard last night from Bob and Eric, who was saying he recommends that we encumber some funds for a match for a grant to do with the development on the east side of town. So those are the 3 things that were added or revised on the list of projects last night. As you know, town meeting voted the senior bus. So that is no longer on the ARPA list, so that kind of shifted the dynamic a little bit. The other thing that happens the longer this money is parked is that it starts to lose its value in the inflationary cycle in the economy. So, you know, we won't, in a year and a half time, if we keep at this pace, even if we have the pace that we're at now, so instead of being almost 8%, inflation is down to 4%, it's still 4%. So you lose that. Your $2 million won't buy as much stuff or as much labor a year and a half from now as it would buy now, or as it would have bought a year and a half ago. So that is very much beginning to weigh on people's mind. The select board is in an unenviable position of having to sort out sort of a complex dynamic. You know, you've got really big projects that we typically don't have enough money in the capital budget to do, and that need to be done, even if they're not a crisis emergency right this very second. They still need to be done. But when you look at it, you say, well, that's a $2 million project, we got 2.7, so that's going to be the lion's share of all. And you'll only be able to do a couple other things. Versus doing lots of projects. So how many $200,000 projects can you do with $2.7 million? You can do quite a few. You can do like 12 projects, right? So you look at that and you say, wow, do I want to do 12 kind of beefy projects, or do I want to do one huge project? And that's a valid thing to get stuck on, but I think they're starting to make up their mind. So it's good progress.
Good. All right, anyone else? Questions, comments, thoughts? We do have minutes, October 19th, 2022, so
I'm going to leave and come back, Madam Chair. I'm going to get that McRitchie report for you, so you...
Sure, but we need you, because on the minutes,
We can go through the ones that don't require his input.
no,
I'll be going for 30 seconds.
all right,
All right.
sure, okay. So the October 15, I'm sorry, 19, 2022. Anyone?
Yeah, I have on 2B, the
2B.
last sentence. It says, with a new project manager in the new future. Is there an old future? when I was,
Be near, I think, wouldn't it?
oh, near, that's good. Yeah, near, absolutely.
Yeah, really, I agree.
Okay.
I missed that one.
The new future.
A new future. Not just called the future. And then on HI, under number 2,
Yeah.
schedule for the engineering team to do through. It should be go through.
Yeah. I
And then
had
the
that.
next sentence, there was a question. Insert a question on whether, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And then the very bottom of the page, the last sentence, it says the new members, Ray. He's only one person. It should be
Strike an S.
singular.
Okay.
Believe me, I flunked English in school, so it's just... Not that I'm picky, but these are obvious. And then the second page, middle of the first paragraph, Mr. Wojcik stated if they are only looking to deal with highway at the time being, for the time being, maybe? You know, and then it goes on and on.
Deal with
Deal with
highway
highway at the time being, then they. I mean, it just does not flow sensibly. I think that it should be for the time being, then they could potentially call a special town meeting.
Anybody?
So insert the word for,
Four?
yeah.
Highway
And
4?
in that same sentence, after the, where it's to construction plan, comma, and they town, it should be the town.
Yes.
And the first dot, a highway barn only if that,
Yeah.
it should be, strike the.
Only
Only if
yeah.
that is what
Okay.
the committee wants to recommend. And then down to number 3. I'm sure that, let's see, it would be like the third sentence after the December 31st. It says, there is 2.7 left of ARPA funds. And I know we know what it means, but 10 years from now, 2.37 what? So it should probably say million, right?
$1 million.
$1 million left, yeah.
Thank you.
So where are you on that one, Linda?
In the middle of number 3,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay.
the third sentence, there is 2.7 left of ARPA funds to be spent. We should indicate 2.7 what? And it should be million, 2.37 million dollars, put dollars.
Quid?
Huh?
Quid? I love that word. I would love to be able to refer to money as quid. How many quid do you have?
Okay, anything else?
And farthings. I like farthings.
I don't know if this was the way it was said, but there were 3 water projects suggested by the systems manager.
Should be apostrophe S.
Huh?
Should be apostrophe S.
No,
No.
I'm not that picky, but
Do
it
you
should
want
be
it-
the water sewer systems manager. We should say who it is, the systems manager of the town hall,
She's got a
or is
point.
that,
Robert Sullivan, comma, water system manager.
no, that's,
Yes.
well, he is a systems
Yeah.
manager, but is that the way it was said that night, you know, is what I'm wondering. There were 3 water projects suggested by the systems manager. You think that's the way you would have,
Probably,
that it?
yeah.
all right, so you want to just leave it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then further on, let's see, it says water main improvement and new pavement with the town giving 1.5 million. Does that, the town giving 1.5 million, is that a matching?
It comes from the town's fund, and the rest comes from the highway, I'm sorry, the water sewer.
Is that what it is? Matt? You see where I am?
Yeah, I mean,
How, 1.5, is that coming from our municipal
I don't think of us
fund?
as giving,
No.
we're providing.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Okay. Or contributing?
Contributing is fine,
Okay.
as long as we're not giving or
Yes.
finding. We're not finding, you don't say that around here. That's a cardinal rule.
Because I was
Don't
thinking, what
find
is it,
money.
like maybe a matching fund, or that's
no.
not the town giving? Yeah.
No, it's right, it
Yeah.
isn't. Okay.
And, let's see. And then the next sentence, the second project is Depot Street. Which parts of the piping, should it be where parts of the piping? Or which? Which parts of the piping? Yeah, I guess it's okay. What do you think?
Should be which,
Which?
stay there, yeah.
Okay,
Key is 1900s.
Yeah, that's the key.
yeah, and that's all I had, Shirley. You have any other?
No? Anyone? Anyone else have any?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of October 19th, 2022 as amended.
Second?
Motion made by Linda Brown, seconded by Bob Wormy. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you. Okay. Matt, you have information for us?
I just passed out the
sorry.
McRitchie report to
Yeah?
board members.
Okay. So does the board want to review this, and then, or do you need comments from us at this point, Matt?
On,
McRitchie's report?
no, you can digest it. and-
Okay, agreed?
Yep.
All right, next meeting is January 18th and February 15th. And please, if you cannot make it, either call me or call the office or email. All right, any further discussion, any comments?
Yeah, we don't
Linda?
have our November meeting minutes yet?
No,
Okay.
not that I've seen.
Okay.
All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn at 4:58.
Second.
Motion made by Linda and seconded by Bob Wormy to adjourn at 4:58. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.